Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We're live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Eric Nicksick. What is up, brother?
Not that much, man. It's good to be on. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a fun little conversation. I met Eric through a mutual friend, Elliot Marshall, a former UFC guy that I become really close friends with in the last little while. So it's amazing to see what Eric has done, and he looks so young on TV, but man, you've been at this game for a little while now, the whole MMA game. So we're gonna get into that. So let's start off with Eric. Where did you grow up? Siblings? How'd you go to school? What got you in that route? Was it like wrestling? Like what got you into the route of mixed martial arts?
So I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. Same with my mom. We're like second, almost third generation Las Vegas born. So seen a lot of growth out of this city in my 41 years here. So I have a little sister, and my dad was a football coach. My uncle as well. They coached at the same high school together that I played at. My mom ran a glass company here. She was in like basically helped build casinos and hotels. So she ran a really multi-million-dollar glass company in the development of Las Vegas. So kind of a cool story, man. And then football was always my sport. Played for my dad. I was 14 years old on varsity as a freshman on varsity football. Played my 4 years with the old man and played a little bit of defense. And that's where my dad was a defensive coordinator. And he used to just, bro, it was bad. He used to get on me so bad. And there was a practice where he yelled at me so bad the head coach moved me back over to offense. he said, bro, he calls me in his office. He's like, man, I can't take your dad yelling at you anymore. I'm going to move you over to offense. So that year he moves me over to offense, and I was first team All-State. I broke the Nevada State reception record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good move for me. Decided to go to University of Nevada, Reno. Wanted to play ball up there, and just didn't really work out well for me, man. I was a young kid. I graduated at 17. I graduated young. Yeah. And, I think just the environment of college and being out of the house and just really took too much fun in the partying and the outside perspective of rather than football. And I transferred out to Dixie Junior College out in St. George, Utah, ended up finishing up school there, playing ball there, and moving back to Vegas. And then,
quick question. When you did that football, when you first got in there into the college realm, did you have mindset of pros?
I didn't have I remember thinking to myself, like, it was the first time I think where I didn't have like it was the first time I had like an off season where I wasn't training. And when you're in that regiment and looking back at it now, like since I was 8 years old, I wore helmets and shoulder pads. And I trained every day. I did something every day, football related. And then all of a sudden you didn't have to, and here's my dad, my uncles, everybody that was all coaches on the team, coaches I looked up to. I was in the weight room or I was doing something football related, whether it was film study or running routes every day. And then all of a sudden I didn't have to. And I think that cost me, man. I think it messed my routine up. It messed my psyche up in a way where I wouldn't say it made me lazy, but I just knew there was like, it was almost like I was burned out in a lot of ways, I think. So yeah, and that was I think kind of what ended up making me a little bit more lackadaisical in my approach. And then getting kicked out of school, I was an eye opener, and then it reshuffled the cards for me. And when I got to St. George, Utah, there wasn't anything to do but lift weights and play football. There's no trouble to get in when you're out there. So I think I kind of needed that just for my growth.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So where did the, I guess, entrance into martial arts?
I'll tell you what, Jeff, for me, it was the camaraderie. It was the people. And I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. After football, I was pursuing a career in the fire service. I was going through my paramedic. I got hired on by 2 fire departments here at City, North Las Vegas and City. Did really well. I was number 2 on the list. And unfortunately for me, when the background check came up, that fight I got in Reno when I was 17, it just turned 18, reared its ugly head, and they wouldn't hire me because of a fight I got in the dorms in college. So that eliminated me from a career in the fire service, and I was crushed, man. It was my dream. Out of about 5,000 people that tested, I was number 2 on that list. I was a shoe-in for 2 departments. I had my choice. I could pick. I scored a 98. I was the second highest. So, it was hard, man. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was training over at Extreme Couture. But the same time, this was my passion. I wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And once that kind of dissipated, I looked around my surroundings, and I was in the gym. I was training with Randy and the guys, and I was running a class or 2 at the time. But what really got my foot in the door was just the fact that I just wanted to be around like-minded individuals. I wanted to be around people that pushed me and elevated my standards a lot of ways. I was bartending. I bartended for almost 20 years, man. That was my job that I made money. And I started to see my surroundings more and more. I started to see the people that were in the bar industry. They'd get off of work. They'd gamble their money away. They'd smoke, they'd drink, they'd party, and they'd just go to sleep and do it all over again. And I think the eye openers for me was like just seeing the ages of the people that were doing it. And I was like, man, this is a trap. And I got to figure out a way to get the hell out of this. What does the bartending role do for me? It serves a purpose. It's a job. It pays the bills. It gives me money, but it also can be a detriment when you stay trapped in that circle. So that's kind of when I just decided I really wanted to focus more on the gym and be in the gym more and put my energy in the gym. And then that's when Randy offered me the gym manager role. So I took over the gym and started running the business more and coaching a lot more. So everything kind of just fell when you believed in yourself and got rid of all the other bullshit in your life.
Now, I mean, going from training to coaching, I mean, there's a big gap there. Where did that gap start, and how did you like really tone your skills and all that? Or who were you under? Like who really guided you? Obviously, I'm sure Randy did, but who else really guided you in that process?
Dennis Davis, for sure.
Yeah.
He is my main coach. He's the guy that I rely on immensely. Robert Follis, obviously, when Follis was there, I'd say definitely those two, and Ray Sefo. Yeah. So I had this brotherhood of great coaches, and guys with lineage, obviously through Team Quest and Randy, and that's kind of what like where I always knew I was going to coach. I just assumed it would be in football. And I did coach a little football, but man, I just fell in love with MMA. I fell in love with so many different aspects of MMA that I was gravitated to. And those guys really opened the doors for me. It was funny because I was talking to Ray about it yesterday. I was training alongside Ray, but I was just doing more grappling and stuff. And here's Ray, six-time world champ, K1 kickboxer. But I look at him as a resource. Yeah. And I looked over at him, and we were friends for 2 or 3 years already. And I didn't hold pads. I didn't really know how to hold pads. I didn't know much about striking. And I just kind of let my vulnerability go. And I just said, hey, Ray, like I like to learn how to hold pads. And he said, okay, brother, no problem. Be here every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. and you can hold pads for me. You're going to learn how to hold pads. So I got to learn how to hold pads from one of the greatest kickboxers in the planet to ever do it, Yeah. And it was just really just stepping outside my comfort zone and just asking the question, what was the worst he could say? No. And I was like, all right, I'm in, man. And then, had it not been for Ray, I don't think I'm where I'm at today for some of the stuff that I know.
I love that, because there's a lesson there to be learned. And this is something I'm very passionate about is a lot of, whether you're an entrepreneur, coach, doesn't matter what you are, a lot of people never get to the next level, or they struggle along the way because they're scared of asking the damn questions.
For sure. The crazy thing to me that I realized too, Jeff, is like, there's so many guys that you look up to, like Henry Hooft and Trevor Whitman, and guys in my field that I really look up to. Those are the ones that when you ask them a question, they're the ones that usually make themselves available more than anything. And a lot of times you're just intimidated because you look up to them. And one day I just remember like seeing Henry, I was always kind of intimidated by him. And I went over to him and I shook his hand. I said, I'm a big fan of what you do, and just kind of broke the ice. And he's been such a great influence on me in my career ever since. And all it really took was just an opportunity to go say hi to him, And I think once you feel the need to step outside your comfort zone, it just opens up so many other doors.
And people don't even realize too. And it's funny because before this podcast, I was a guest on on a show in Jamaica. Actually, it was a Zoom on Jamaica. And it was a coaching show for entrepreneurs. And that was one of the lessons I was trying to explain to people was if you're trying to start your own business, you're trying to do anything on your own, just find somebody that's where you want to be. Somebody that's already succeeded at. Most people that are successful have no issues helping you. They have no issues passing on their knowledge. And the amount of lessons you can learn, all the mistakes they did that you won't do is invaluable. Like you can't put a dollar on that, right?
Man, 100%. And that's like when I have those, I call it church. It's like going to church when you sit down with Henry.
Yeah.
And he's very transparent, and he'll tell you things that he's seeing and things that you need to be better at, and the way he communicates with you. And you can't pay top dollar for that, but you're absolutely right, man. And like he's and anytime he's ever brought it up, he's always said to me, there's a day that you're going to repay this to some other coach.
Yeah. Pave the way,
man. And that's always been something that has made me feel good. And he said to me one day, I picked him up and I was driving him back to the hotel because he had a fight, and he got quiet. I dropped him off in the valet, and he doesn't really say anything. I was like, all right, see you, coach. He doesn't get out of the car, and he sits there and he says, hey, one day I'm going to be gone. Like, I'm not going to be coaching this anymore. He goes, I feel good knowing that I'm leaving this sport over to guys like you, because you care about your people. You care about your fighters. And that meant a lot to me coming from him. He's a guy I look up to a lot, and a guy that I try to model my game after. So, having that support with guys like him that have zero invested interest in me. He runs his own gym. We run competing gyms, if you will. Yeah. And it's not about that, man. It's not about his ego. It's about seeing good people succeed.
Yeah, I love that. And in reality is most successful people are like that. I think it's just taking that fear of, I guess, that fear of rejection, right? I mean, that's most people why they don't succeed in life, is that fear of rejection, and taking that away and just taking opportunity. I want to talk about your family and stuff like that, but let's give me 2 or 3 really awesome stories of just as a coach, athletes at their peak doing something special that you just, obviously I know one of them or 2 of them, they're really, really up there with Ngannou, but just give me a couple stories. Even it could be even just guys, amateurs that you just had a small ear to ear when they accomplished something and they listened to you and they had that heart and you were part of that journey.
Oh man, for me, definitely Dan Ige. Just our journey together, and I think we bring each other up, and we started on the regional scene together. I had guys in the big show at the time, but for Dan and I, there's something to be said about when you go on the road and you're fighting on these regional shows and
the hotels,
exactly, the hotel, the weight cuts, and the unknown, like, where are we staying? I don't know. I got food poisoning one trip. I'm barfing all over the hotel, and he's trying to cut weight. And I think when you combine all of those things, and the time we've been on the road together and the laughs, and it's just me and him, man, in the hotel room. When you get on this,
it becomes family.
It becomes family. It becomes this level of sweat equity that no one ever really understands. And people always ask, like, man, like when you and Dan get in the corner and you guys get on the stool, it feels different. And that's why, man, like we've been through everything together. And I cherish my relationship with him. I cherish my friendship with him, our coach and fighter relationship. There's just nothing that's untouchable in our life. We speak every day. And if I'm down, he's bringing me up, and vice versa. I just love the kid, man. And to me, my journey in MMA will always be synonymous with Dan's journey in MMA. But moreover, I just feel like we're making ourselves better men, better fathers, better husbands, that one day this MMA sport's going to be gone. But at the end of it, we're going to be with each other through thick and thin, no matter what. So definitely my relationship with Dan is probably one of my proudest moments, especially when it comes to just MMA alone, but life in general.
I love it. And again, when did you start working out with him, and how did you originally meet him?
So Francis started training at the gym after his loss to Derek Lewis.
Yeah.
He was in Vegas. He split time over in France. He trained over at another gym in Vegas. He was kind of PI, bouncing around. He really didn't have a home. And then it was the Curtis Blades 2 fight. He's really started to just anchor down and find a home. And, we never really were coach and fighter relationship, but we were more friends. And I think for him, he has to build a trust with you. And I like that because I feel like for us as coaches, it needs to be organic and not forced. And then over time, he would ask more questions or be at more practices and ask for more things out of me, or, and it was the Cain Velasquez fight. His manager called me, and it was funny because he comes to practice late, and I jumped to shit. I was like, hey man, practice starts at 3:30. You need to be here on time, ready to go. I don't care who you are or whatever. And I'm good friends with his manager, Markel Martin, and Markel calls me about an hour after practice, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hear from him. And he's like, hey, what do you think about working with Francis? And I was like, why? I jumped to shit. I jumped to shit today.
But you did something that a lot of people need, is accountability.
Yep. He said I cared.
Yeah, it's a care. The accountability is caring, right? If you hold somebody accountable for their actions, it's a sense of care. You give a shit. So I love that.
My dad used to always say, he said, man, when a coach stops talking to you, that's when you have to worry.
Yeah.
That's when you have to worry, man, because he doesn't care anymore, and I always saw the potential that Francis has, not only as a human being, but as an athlete. And I just felt like he was just cutting corners in the littlest things, man. And I was like, man, you just got to get a championship mindset, and let's work on those things. And so I think just being around the gym and the team and the standard that we have as a staff and coaches, and being in the environment really just helped him form a bond that he was looking for. So I started working with him on the Junior Dos Santos fight. Then Jairzinho, obviously COVID hit. And that's when him and I really became like family, because it was just me and him. We didn't have anybody else. And, I remember coming home, and it was a couple weeks into the mandatory quarantine here in Vegas, and asking my wife and kids, I said, hey, I could tell Francis was depressed. He lives at home by himself. He doesn't know where to go. Only thing he had to look forward to was coming to the gym in the mornings and working out with me. And that was it. It was just me and him. Yeah. Well, I was getting the shit kicked out of me, man, for 14 weeks. So I just said, I would like to be able to have Francis come over for dinner if you guys would be okay with that. I know that we're all trying to stay isolated in quarantine, but I'm obviously working out with him. So, and he's going home. Yeah. Why not have him over, man? And I'll tell you what, it changed everybody's lives in a lot of ways, because we weren't stuck in the mundane routine of seeing the same faces. Now it's Francis in the house, and Francis is here hanging out for hours on end. And he's playing with the kids, and he doesn't even want to go home. And then there's days where, like, I didn't call him or invite him. He just shows up and he's at the house and hanging out. But man, it really made us a family and a support system that I don't think that he had, and I think that we needed. So that's when our relationship, I felt like, just really blossomed.
I love it. Fatherhood, because you just mentioned your children. You have 3 children?
Yes.
What are the ages?
13, 11, and 4.
13. So 13 and 4. That's a gap.
Yeah, 2 girls, and then my wife wanted to try for the boy. And we got him. So yeah.
Is that it for now?
Yeah, that's it. I got a puppy just the last week. So
what type of dog?
We got a Frenchie.
Oh, Frenchie.
Yeah.
What does fatherhood mean to you?
Man, that's a great question. I've been struggling a lot lately just with the amount of work that I've been in. And I posted a picture a couple of days ago on my Instagram, and it was a picture of my wife and 3 kids without the dad, and they're all at the beach and they're all doing vacations. And, so fatherhood to me, I guess, is balance. I guess is the best word I can say, is because I understand that my job provides, but it also takes away a lot of time and resources when, they're on these vacations. It's summertime, and I'm here working. It's tough. It gets tough on me. So I think for me, it's just understanding the right amount of balance and the right amount of energy to provide, but also be a good dad.
Yeah. I mean, it's And it is finding that. And it's, I call it, as I coach a lot of dads, right? And I call it the non-negotiables. You have to really, I mean, you're 41. So are your parents both around still?
Yeah. Mom and dad live pretty close.
Okay. So you see them on a regular basis, right?
Pretty regular. I'd say probably once a week or once every other week.
Okay, good. So you're lucky that way. And you just have to look at what things, Eric, are non-negotiable in your life, right? I mean, one thing you have to put in your head is, and there's a stat, 90% of the FaceTime we're going to spend with our kids is before the age of 18. So when you put that in your head and you start calculating that, and then you look at your parents and like, how old are your parents?
They're in their 70s.
I just lost my dad at 76. 11 weeks ago, buddy. And it's been, and he was my best friend, and it's been the hardest 11 weeks of my life. And when you look at the average person lives 80, and if your parents are in their 70, that might be 5, 6, if you're lucky, 7 summers left with them. So you have to, when you start thinking of those things in your head and the non-negotiables, and you start looking at time as a currency, you start prioritizing stuff, right? And it's just figuring out how to sacrifice and how to prioritize those non-negotiables in your life, right? And in a lot of dads, their mindset is it's like, I got to spend 3 hours for it. Could be half an hour, but be present. Be present. Be off your phone. Yep. That's all it is, man. Be present. Build memories with them, and fill their memory bank. That one day when you're not around or you're in your elders, they'll be able to tell their children about all the memories you've built with them, right? So, yeah, it's just finding that balance and living with no regrets, because if something were to happen, like you not being there on vacation, you're going to regret that, right? So just looking at those things, right? But so your career right now, I would say in your head, it's been the last, I would say 12 to 24 months, your career is really blossoming and getting in the right direction. Yeah, I think so. I think when you start to look at accolades or things of that sort, but I've always been a firm believer in just keeping your head down and grinding and understanding that good things will happen. The journey, the process, right? The process is part of the product, and I enjoy the process. So I just know that we create good fighters. My fighters will speak for themselves, right? That the product will be part of the coaching, and you don't have to be loud and boisterous. You have to be original and stay who you are and stay the course, and good things will happen, man. And, I'm a firm believer in that. So I'm glad the way things are formulating now, but all in all, I just think it's just a product of who we are as a team in a gym and the environment we surround ourselves with. How many athletes do you take on under your wing at one time? Oh, that's very, it's very. And I talked to Elliot about it, and he's working. I think he said he's working with 3 right now. And it's just like when the training camps come along, there's a lot of dedication there. Yeah. I'm up there. I'm up there pretty big. So, I mean, I haven't had a weekend off really. Like this weekend, I'm going to corner 3 fighters. So I'll have 2 in the UFC. I'll fly out on Sunday to go corner one of my guys on a card out in San Diego on Sunday night, and then I'll fly back. So, I probably have upwards of 30, maybe 35 fighters. Yeah. So I'm coaching a lot right now. That number needs to get whittled down. I've already kind of made that okay, I'm going to start trimming some of the fat. And it really just is, I can only do so much. And I'm such a passionate coach where I want to give you 110%. And you can only really give that so often throughout the day. And it really just dilutes my product. So guys like Danny Ige and Francis and Jeremy Kennedy and Kai Kamaka, my main guys and my main people, I'm just going to make sure that they're getting my time, because they for one, they give it to me, and I just enjoy being on that journey with them. What's an average day of you getting up? What time you get up? How many classes do you do? Actually, is it all one-on-one, or you still do classes as well? So I coach the Monday pro practice, but I'm there for all the pro practices Monday through Thursday. We have different coaches that will come in and jump in and run some stuff, but mostly sparring days are just a hard warm up, but we're there for sparring. Yesterday I was there for wrestling, wasn't wrestling, but I was there watching, and just being there, I think is important, that kind of boots on the ground mentality. Yeah.
but I get up in the morning and I'll be around the house because it's like the best time in the morning was with my son and my kids. And, it's kind of that like hour where you get the day going, and then I'll get in the gym and I'll have my first session in the morning. Today will be like Cynthia Calvillo. I'll have a session or two in the mornings. I'll try to maybe get 2 or 3 in before lunch. Then I'll go to lunch, get my office work done, and then I'll be ready for pro practice. And then sometimes after pro, I'll do a thing or two. And today I'll actually jump into quarantine with Kai and Cheyenne and go cut weight with them tonight. So my wife set me up with a Google Calendar. She's like, hey, you need to start doing this.
I was gonna say, yeah. You definitely need an organized calendar.
I get away with it though, Jeff, because I'm always at the gym. So if I miss something, they're like, hey, are we supposed to hit pads? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right there. So I'm always in there anyway. So it works out.
You travel a lot, so you're essentially every weekend you're in the plane some way or another, right? Unless, you're in Vegas, so a good amount of the cards are there, so you're lucky in that direction.
Yeah, very, very fortunate in that regard for sure. I don't know if I had to travel if my wife would be too happy with me, but that has been definitely a godsend that the fights have been at the Apex. So, yes, I might be out of the house. I'm staying in the hotel, but I'm a phone call. I'm literally 10 minutes away from the house. So, and then when the fights are over, it's amazing. I get to come right home. That's been the best. Like, you don't have to sit in a hotel and wait and pack and get ready to go and then get on the airplane and fly from East Coast to West Coast. It's just like you're already home, So that part's been amazing for sure.
I'm assuming you were a part of Fight Island. You were on there?
First one, yeah.
How long were you there for, period wise?
Man, I the first Fight Island, I had 3 fighters. I had Jared Gordon, and that was by coincidence because his camp ended up testing positive for COVID a week before we went to fly out. So he knew I was going to be there. And then it was myself and Paul Felder. We ended up cornering him to a victory. Dan Ige fought Calvin Kattar, and then Joe Benavidez fought Davison Figueiredo. So I was out there for about 2 weeks, I believe, the first one.
How was that experience?
It was kind of like the Twilight Zone, It was just.
I've heard that from a few people.
Yeah, it was weird, man. It was like a sci-fi movie. Everybody's in these like hazmat suits, and you're walking around this 5-star hotel, but you can't go anywhere. So you gotta stay in your room, and it just got like Groundhog's Day. Every day is the same food, same shit. The only really like sanctity that you had, I guess, is I brought my PlayStation, so I just played Warzone all day, and we trained a lot. So it was good. Like me and Felder were there, so Paul and I trained a whole bunch, and there's a kind of an underworld of camaraderie amongst certain coaches, and we get together and we'll spend time with one another, and that's always pretty cool, and picking guys' brains and hanging out. So, you do it the best you can with your time, but man, like, you're stuck in that room. When you get there, 48-hour quarantine, you can't leave your room. You're in there, bro. You're not going anywhere at all. So it's just like, holy shit, get me out of here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I'm on TV from the outside, and you're looking in and seeing this paradise, and you think these guys are like lucky shits. We're locked down here, but it's pure opposite. I had a. Oh yeah, no. Yeah. I talked to a few people there, and they said the exact same thing as you have. It wasn't all the fun everybody saw on TV and all that, right? Yeah. Where do you see yourself coaching wise over the next like 5-10 years? Where do you see that? Like, do you have a longer term plan for this? Like, it takes a lot of wear and tear. Like you said, eventually you're gonna have to cut down and trim some fat and just really hone down who you want to be around and all that. But what's a long-term play? Because you've been at it for a while, but you've already accomplished quite a bit. Obviously accolades with coach of the year and coaching champs, and you've built those relationships where they're going to be long-term friendships with big. Where's the long-term play with this?
I've thought about like business ventures and how I want to step out, maybe outside a little bit of the realm of MMA, but kind of in that, like, we're dabbling in the podcast things, and we're doing some other things as far as like, business wise goes, that I want to just set up and diversify a little bit. Yeah. And, one of the things I've really been enjoying has been, so this will be actually my 5th semester going over to UNLV School of Business. And they had me over there for, I do a leadership speaking for one of the business classes, and it'll be my 5th one. and it was always so much fun to go to. But what's been really cool is lately I've been getting a lot of letters back from some of the students that have been in that class. And one guy wrote in his acceptance letter to Florida State some of the things we talked about in my class, and then some of the impact that some of those lessons that he's had. And those things have really like inspired me to maybe step outside my comfort zone a little bit and maybe expand, and maybe like motivational speaking or coaching or doing some things outside of the realm of MMA, and maybe helping just normal people, and giving, maybe changing their mindset a little bit. That's been something that's been a goal of mine. But, as far as the MMA side of it goes, it was funny because Francis and I were talking about this last week. And when he won the title, yes, we were very happy. And what I like about our mindset was like, all right, what's next? Like, we're not finished, right? We're hungry still.
Yeah.
And what do we want to do now? What do we want to do next? And how good do you want to be? How great do you want to be? Like those kind of things. And I just love being around that mentality, man. And we weren't satisfied with the win.
Yeah.
When a lot of guys, I think when they win the title, their hardest fight in their entire career as champions is their first title defense.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
So like, I'm looking forward to that next challenge. I'm looking forward to that next opportunity. And, I'm hoping it's John Jones, just because I would like to compete against the guy of that stature. And you never know, we'll see. But I like challenges.
It's funny because one of my staff here is like an MMA nerd, if you want to call it. And it's funny because when I was talking, I was going to come on and talk to you right now. And it's just, our studio is in our actual office, a Comoro head office. And he's like, ask about the John Jones fight. Yeah, so he said, is that something that you guys really would look at, consider?
I'm an optimist by nature. So when this whole thing with Gone and Lewis hit, I just like, all right, in my head, I'm like, well, maybe that opens the door for John and Francis for like Madison Square Garden or something. I'm just massive, man. And like, bro, I just get goosebumps thinking about that, like that's the opportunity that I want. Like, I want to compete against the best. I want to compete against, in my mind, one of the best coaches in the game, and Brandon Gibson, Greg Jackson, Winklejohn, man, like that inspires me. That gets me up and motivated, so, and so does any, fighting for a title or defending it. If it's Lewis or Gone, yes, I'll be just as motivated. But when you talk about the stature and, the mystique of John Jones, man, that fight excites me.
Yeah. That's pretty, I'm 100% in agreement with you with that. There is, when you look at, I love what you said, that you continue with Ngannou, with Francis, when you guys sat down, you're always hungry. You need that. With the mindset, how much of your coaching is focused on the mindset?
I'd say upwards to like 80%.
It's crazy. Huh? It's crazy how this is not even you. This is Major League Baseball, NHL. Like, it's just the game in sports in general at that pro level has changed so drastically over the last probably 5 to 6 years.
Big time. And thankfully for me, at an early age and a little bit in high school, I played quarterback. And I remember my dad telling me, he's like, remember, you have 10 other personalities on the field with you. Some you can grab by the face mask. Some you have to hug and coddle. Some you can yell at certain ways. But you got to understand who and what you're talking to. You have to know your audience. He said, lead by example, play the game with your hair on fire. But when you go and like yell at the receiver for dropping a ball, that might hurt him. That might make it worse, right? Like, you have to get to know these people and understand what they need and what they need to hear. So I think just being around your team and your fighters and being on the road with them and understanding their personalities, what inspires them, what's their whys, it really helps you understand their mental side of things, because you got to know why they're in this sport, man. You got to have a loose screw. Are you a fighter by nature? Are you a competitor? Are you an athlete? Like, what attributes got you into this sport? And then it gives you some idea of how to approach them and how to kind of conquer their fears, if you will, So that to me has been the my favorite part about the sport. And a lot of times that 1 minute you have in the corner is like my symphony, man. I love that part. I love that part. Like, I just feel like that's where I belong, man. Is that 1 minute we have to make adjustments or give the proper message and send it right back out there.
I love it. Your wife, what does she mean to you?
Oh,
How long have you been married for?
So we're high school sweethearts.
Oh, you are?
So,
okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So we started dating in 1997. We've been married 15 years. Man, she's my everything, like complete everything. So
you're very close to me because I'm 44. I've been married for 18 years.
Yeah.
So we started right out of high school, getting to know each other. Yeah, that's very cool.
She's the glue that holds everything together for me. She's a lot of my whys. Like I don't get to do this job and have this career without her motivation, the way she pushes me. Just constant love and support, times where I feel like I'm not doing the right things, or if I'm, even like last week when I was kind of down and out that I missed this trip, she's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like, we know there'll be more trips to come. We'll make those happen." Right. Like, just kind of keeps me level headed and even keel.
She's your anchor. She's your anchor at home.
She's my anchor at home, man. I definitely outkick my coverage. She's drop dead gorgeous. For me, I think the best part about our relationship is I got to fall in love with my wife in like sections. And what I mean by that, like, I fell in love with her in high school as a high school sweetheart. And that's a different type of love, Yeah. We went away to college. We went to separate colleges. We had breakups and long distance relationships and ups and downs and trying to figure that out. And then, we fell in love again, and it was a different type of love. And then there's as a fiance, and then as a wife. And then, man, like, you fall in love with her in a different way when she's the mother of your kids, So it's just always been like this evolution, I think, of our relationship. We've been able to mold and form one another into the spouses that we want each other to be. And we reciprocate that back to one another. We challenge each other. We push each other. And, man, like, she just got her vaccination this week, and she's been feeling a little down and out yesterday. Yeah. And I was like, just scared, like, "Oh, you're all right? Like, but you fucking die on me." I don't know what the hell I do without you, man. So yeah, man, she's my everything. And a lot of times especially when Francis won, she's the first person I wanted to call, like, just FaceTime, because a lot of people don't understand the time that is taken away from her, the time that's taken away from my family is really, it's them. It's they're the ones that suffer from it. So a win like that and those victories, those really go to them.
I love it. I've coached and I've talked to a lot of husbands, and no one's ever mentioned in that level where you re-fall in love at different stages. And it's so true.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I haven't even thought about it. I love when you said, when you became a mom, it's a different love now. You appreciate her vulnerability, but also her, I mean, I explained it, but it's just her way to just comfort and love your children. You're seeing that and you're like, wow, like that love, and it's almost like you love the way she loves her kids.
It's unreal. Like, there's no words for it. It's just by action. You see it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, like just everything about it, man. Like, I think that's the most beautiful time I've ever seen my wife is when she's pregnant. Like, it's just like, there's like a glow about her. It's like majestic, and I loved watching her, I love watching her as a mom, It's amazing to see. So yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It comes in phases for sure.
I'm sure somebody's asked you this before. The MMA world, did you ever have that itch to, and I don't know if you have, because this is my curiosity side. So I don't do tons of research on people. I just like having open conversations. Did you ever compete or wanted to compete at that level?
Yeah. So I never got in the sport because I was like, I'm going to be a pro fighter. And then really when I got in the sport, my focus was on the fire department, but I was training. And then during that time, I got offered to fight Ryan Bader, and Dennis Davis was fighting on the same card, my head coach.
Yeah.
And the promoter comes in the gym, and here's me and Dennis were training, and the promoter's like, we need a fight. We need a matchup for Ryan Bader. and I knew Bader. I knew from football. He played up in Reno. I was at Dixie, I was in Vegas, so I knew him, and I knew he was good. I knew he was tough. I just knew him more as a wrestler than anything.
Yeah.
And my wife is pregnant with McKenna, our first. I remember going home and she's like ready to bust pregnant. I was like, hey babe, what do you think? I got offered to fight Ryan Bader for $2,000. She's like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, I'm pregnant, ready to bust. This guy's a savage. He's probably going to spike you on your head and break your neck. You're a test away from getting hired on by the fire department for a career job. You don't even really care to be a pro fighter, like all these other things. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. She probably saved me from a lifetime in a wheelchair by not having to fight that guy. So yeah, I mean, and that was really the one time where I was like entertaining the idea to do it. And it really just never presented itself again to where I could have, I guess, but I never was like, oh, this is what I need to do. And this is what I wanted to do. So for a while there was a level, I guess, of imposter syndrome as a coach, because it's like, man, all these great coaches were all pro fighters. So why was a fighter going to trust me when I haven't fought on a professional level? And I remember in college, I had an offensive coordinator who never played football, never even played ball. And I had a problem with that. Like, it just didn't resonate well with me. And I remember calling my dad, who is in the Nevada State Hall of Fame as a coach. Like, he's a genius when it comes to defense. And I said, Dad, this coach never even played. Like, how am I supposed to listen to that guy? And he said, listen, I'll tell you what, there's coaches that have never played the game. They're going to know more insight because they're not formed in a certain way.
Yeah.
They're not brought up in a certain like lineage or this or this or that. So they're actually outside the box thinkers.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can learn a lot from those types of coaches. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And sure as shit, man, this coach was just above and beyond in his mindset and the way he saw the game. And I use that for me when it came to MMA. I was like, for one, I need to be on the mats. I need to train. I need to be in the room. I need to be able to spar and do all these things with the guys so they trust me. But number two, I need to think outside the box, and I need to figure out ways to approach them and give them ideas and thoughts and theories that is different from what maybe a typical MMA coach might give them. And I think that's where I found my niche. Was one, I didn't lie about it. I heard coaches lie about fights they had, and which was all bullshit because there's a thing called Google. And, I think like just being transparent and open and honest,
authenticity,
won me over. Authenticity, man. It won me over people. So, now I take pride in the fact that I'm at the level that I'm at to this day and never having to fight competitively.
Yeah. I love it. I got one more question for you. And this is the only question I have set at the end of our podcast. I always ask everybody, if something were to happen to you today, in a few words, how would you want to be remembered or described by your loved ones?
Oh, that's easy for me. I would just want people to say that he cared. Like he was good to me. He cared. He made the time and effort when he didn't have to. I think I hope that my energy and my passion will be missed. And I just hope that my name is synonymous with integrity. I hope people feel like, man, this dude was a man of his word. He was good to me. He was a good person. He was a good dad and a good husband. That's how I would hope to be remembered, as a human being, to be honest with you.
I love it. How could the audience follow you, and what would they, is there any way that anything you want to like end this conversation with to tell the audience?
No, I forget how far reach that we have with people with social media. I forget about that. And I think sometimes you're naive to the fact that, you can really help a lot of people with good messages. I think people should be aware of what they're putting out there energy wise, like you see those websites where it's like a fight in a Taco Bell, and what that does to your energy, right? It's like every time you see something bad on social media, I immediately post something good. I think just having that mentality, and For me, I feel like if you want to follow me or get a hold of me, it's my Instagram. It's at Eric_XCMMA. And then, follow myself and Elliot, our podcast, Seconds Out podcast, and be constructive. Tell us how we can do better. I like that. I like when people tell me what we need, they want to hear, and what we can do better. And that inspires me. That makes me a better person. So I like that part.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, brother. On all our show notes, I'll put all that information. Thank you for taking time of your busy schedule, and I appreciate it, man.
Man, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.